Okay. All right, let's get started. Welcome to the first ever Q&A session with our board candidates. I've gotten many questions about how we've done this in the past, and I have had to say that I have no idea, but we should have been doing this every year. So we're glad you're all here, and we are recording, so this will be online later for anyone who joins us late or can't make it tonight. My name is Christy Laurie. I'm the executive director of Pittsburgh Ultimate, and I will be facilitating this evening, along with some help from our president, PJ Williamson, and another board member, Sam Shore, who will be working in the background. Big thanks to them. I want to introduce our candidates to you, but mostly I want to let them introduce themselves. Before we do that, I just want to shoot a little bit of Zoom etiquette out. It will be in the chat, but also I just wanted to reiterate, we will be keeping the panelists speaking the whole time tonight, so everyone is asked to stay muted.
She has, because
you are welcome to chat in the chat, ideally directly to PJ if you have questions for the candidates. If you want to have your video on or off, we don't mind either way, but we're happy to have you. If you haven't been on Zoom much, I do suggest pinning all 4 candidates to your top of your screen so that you can see all 4. They will generally be answering all of the questions. So we will be rotating who is speaking, and we will be spotlighting the candidate that's speaking to the current question. Please use the chat professionally if you do choose to chat to everybody. We will be keeping that also. Okay, let's have our candidates introduce themselves. First, we will start with Janine Opie. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, my name's Janine Opie. I use she, her pronouns. I've been playing Ultimate a long time. We don't need to say how long, but I'm from Pittsburgh, but I moved back here like very recently. Very excited to be back. And I'm running for board because I'm really focused on trying to provide more playing opportunities to a wider demographic of the city of Pittsburgh, and also collaborate with some nonprofits in the city to get some more community activities going once we can all see each other in person again. And yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Up next, Kate Farley.
Hi, I'm Kate Farley. I use they, them pronouns. I'm running for, well, I've been playing Ultimate for about 5 years now, and I am running for board because I'm really committed to creating more opportunities outside of Ultimate for players within the Ultimate community to, be more involved in the community, be more involved in different social justice movements, and creating a more universal and well-rounded space for people to and communicate with one another. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Up next is Maggie Lincoln.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I use she, her pronouns. Currently a sophomore at the University of Pittsburgh and play on High Voltage, their B team, but I've been playing Pittsburgh Ultimate for 8 years now. And I'm really hoping to just help grow and reshape youth ultimate in Pittsburgh and help foster connections between different levels of players.
Awesome. And fourth, we have Stephanie Clark.
Hi all, I'm Steph Clark, she, her pronouns, and I've been playing Ultimate in or around Pittsburgh for almost a decade now. And I am hoping to increase community engagement and outreach. So just creating more ways for Pittsburgh Ultimate to engage with the broader local community and kind of vice versa. So that's something that's really important to me.
Awesome. And our first question will be going in the same order in which we introduced ourselves. So we'll be starting with Janine. And the question is, which of the 4 Pittsburgh Ultimate values most resonates with you? And as a reminder to the community, our 4 values that are in our strategic plan are fun, excellence, growth, and community. Go ahead, Janine.
Okay, this is a question I definitely overthought because there's so much to say about each of those values and they're all vital. But what it really just boiled down to me was fun. I mean, like it's the most basic reason we play Ultimate. Like we are using our spare time to do it. It should be fun. It's like very broad of a idea, but I also don't think it can be fun without a space that's fun and equitable and where everyone feels welcome. So like I look back on my own experiences and said like I didn't want to do this form of Ultimate, be it like a league or pickup, because it wasn't fun. Well, why wasn't it fun? And it was like maybe I wasn't being treated as an equal. I felt like I wasn't being thrown the disc enough and by I don't know, male counterparts. We've all been there. So I mean, and like fun is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Like what is fun to a 20-year-old player is probably pretty different for like a 40-year-old player. So it's our job to create activities and enough options where like everybody can find something fun. Because like I said, it's our spare time. It's what we do after work and on the weekends. So we should have a good time doing it. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Kate?
Yeah, so I think that similar to Janine, I really overthought this question a lot and thought about what was really important to me about being on the board and being a part of a leadership type role. And I think what it came down to me was growth. And I think a lot of that has to do with my experience in college playing Ultimate and having been a core person, growing the women's B team and, creating that space for a lot of people. And I think given the current social media climate regarding Ultimate right now, growth is a really big topic. And growth is like something that's very important. And we can't, have the other aspects of Ultimate without, growing and changing and admitting, what needs to be changed and what needs to be fixed to become more equitable and to become a more well-rounded community. So I think that was what stuck out to me as the most important aspect.
Great, thank you. Maggie?
Okay, well, this is fun because I have a different answer myself as well, so we get to hear a bunch of sides, yeah. I think a year ago, I would have definitely said fun because ultimately, like, that's why I keep with the sport, because I enjoy it. But especially with COVID happening, community aspect of it really has stood out to me and resonated, just because like I know my team, High Voltage, has been absolutely amazing at like keeping like things going and having that sense of community. I think especially in like a time like this, it just like that's what people are needing. And like we had the speed friending thing the other week. That was great. Even though I was not able to go to all of it. And I think just like the community is what can like actually make like it's community Pittsburgh Ultimate, Yeah.
Great, thanks. Steph?
So similar to Maggie, community was the value that really stuck out to me. And especially like Maggie said, with COVID, I feel like for me that was something that I was really missing. But Pittsburgh Ultimate is essentially my chosen family. And I know that it's a space where I always feel welcome. And if I'm out and about in Pittsburgh and I see somebody wearing a Pittsburgh Ultimate jersey or shirt from a league or something, I instantly feel connected to them, even if I've like never seen them before in my life. And so I feel for me it's definitely community. And I want to make sure that everyone who is currently part of our community or may eventually become part of our community feels that feeling of welcome and feeling like they belong. So, yeah.
Great. Thanks so much. Our second question is, what is a tangible way that Pittsburgh Ultimate can be more inclusive, and what does that inclusivity mean to you? Let's start this time with Kate.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for, there we go. I think that a tangible way that we can be more inclusive is just changing our language, right? So I think that that is one of the biggest parts of starting inclusivity with various communities, whether that's race or gender or sexuality, et cetera, et cetera. Using appropriate language and recognizing when we're not using appropriate language or when we've used inappropriate language in the past is something that's really important. I know that that's really important when talking about A teams versus B teams, or men's teams versus women's teams, or mixed leagues. And so changing our language, changing our rhetoric, and making sure that we're being mindful about like saying, hey, I was using inappropriate language that was maybe hurtful or wrong in the past, and here's what I'm going to do moving forward, is something that we can tangibly start with to create a more equitable community.
Awesome. Maggie?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot. Sorry. One of the things that I've been thinking about lately is just having like concrete plans of actions on ways to address and report issues. Because I find a lot of what's going on is that people are recognizing where damage is being done, and they like report it and they go to their like captains or their coaches or committees, but then the problem doesn't get addressed. So I think having just like a systematic way and rules like where like, oh, for like pool or whatever leagues, just having like, this is what happens, and just like having a set plan that we can follow. So it's not just up to the discretion of like the captains who might be friends with the person or whatever the dynamic is there.
Sure, thanks. Up next, Steph.
Sure. I'll wait for my video. There it is. So for me, this isn't really a concrete sort of example of what I think should happen. But I think it's super important that we are listening to the diverse voices in our community and let them lead and inform discussions about inclusivity, because ultimately they're the folks that we want to feel included. So if we include them in the discussion about, how we can best include them and make them feel included, letting them inform our decisions, I think is the most important thing. As a white cis woman, I can't really make a decision about, this is something that would make a person of color feel included. So I think talking to those members of our community and getting their input and letting their input inform our decisions is super important. So.
Janine?
Okay. Yeah, hard not to echo what everyone already said. I think like the board needs to be a place that's very open to feedback and constantly evolving, and how we, run Ultimate City. But when I thought about this question, I thought about like maybe creating different and maybe more diverse like opportunities for people to play Ultimate, and like that would suit just like a broader group of people. Maybe ones like cater toward beginners or like women only or an older crowd, just to give people options. Like if our options are limited, people aren't going to feel included or like they want to try Ultimate. So just like giving people a lot of different spaces where they can play and try it out. And then I think that way, like the word would get out to a more diverse community, and just, yeah, people would feel included that way.
Great. Thanks so much. Our third question is, or request is, tell us about a skill you have developed or an experience from your education or professional life that you think can directly impact Pittsburgh Ultimate by you being on the board. This time we will start with Maggie.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I'm going to talk with two things. I'll talk first of all with my experience as a hall council member, actually, my freshman year of college, because it was all about community building, putting on programs such as like ping pong tournaments, different watch parties, and just like fostering like communication between residents and addressing like their needs, which I think is very relevant to like helping building the ultimate community as well. And currently I am an eco rep, which is sort of connecting residents with sustainability. But a lot of it is just communications and speaking to the right people and just like finding those, like talking to residence directors and housekeeping. Yay, sustainability, yeah. And just like finding ways to like get out information and get people engaged with that.
Awesome. Steph.
Okay. So I, for those of you that were around in 2014, 2015, I was previously on the board of directors for Pittsburgh Ultimate for those years. And I was part of the board that helped to establish, and Christy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the first point at which we established a strategic plan for Pittsburgh Ultimate.
Definitely the most organized version of that.
Yeah. It was the first one that felt like an actual strategic plan. And we established the committees related to the strategic plan. I have also served on the board for, it was a couple of years, 2016 and 2017, for a fundraising and volunteer engagement organization at the university that I worked for at the time, South University. You've probably never heard of it, which is fine. So I, through that, I have experience with like planning and organizing volunteer events, fundraising events, and working with basically no budget on planning those events. So I think that is definitely an additional skill that I've picked up since being on the board several years ago now.
Janine?
Okay, I guess I have two answers. Like in my professional life, I've been working remotely. I kept my job in New York, and like I work in real estate, which is hard to relate to this question, but I do a lot of scheduling and customer service, and like I deal with a lot of money, so I feel like those are all applicable skills. But more so related to Ultimate, I was a sectionals coordinator for 2 years. It counts. I got a staff membership card from USAU. It definitely came with a lot of unique challenges, like when they pushed the series up, and like we were trying to find more ways to get more teams to participate. And just being a sectionals coordinator is a lot of logistics and collecting money and, you know, keeping teams happy and scheduling. So all of the above, I've kind of done it all. But yeah, there was really a lot to take away from those 2 years that I did it. And I think I could bring a lot to the table for CPU in that way.
And Kate?
So I think I have a bit of a different approach, never having been on the board. You know, the extent of my leadership experience in Ultimate is captaining and helping start up High Voltage, which was a really amazing opportunity. But even more than that, I work in mental health currently, and I have learned a lot of active listening skills and a lot of like receptive listening skills. As somebody who is a very proactive person, wants to solve problems, wants to like get a jump on things, it was really important for me to learn how to listen and how to receive feedback and information. And so I, through my work and through my, education in the mental health field, have learned how to appreciate listening to other people and receiving feedback from others, and knowing, when it's my place to talk and when it's my place to listen, and how to, create equitable and communicative solutions while collaborating with others has been something that I think would make me a super valuable asset to CPU.
Awesome. Our next question is, what other local organizations do you think might be good for Pittsburgh Ultimate to work with? This time we're going to start with Steph.
Yay. So this is something that I've been kind of thinking about and kicking around. And I don't have a ton of specifics, but one specific organization that I have been thinking about is PSL, because they also run an ultimate league of sorts. And I think, creating a more reciprocal relationship with them is something that I'd like to work towards, where, maybe we like kind of co-advertise, like they advertise for Pittsburgh Ultimate leagues to their PSL players, and we advertise like non-ultimate PSL leagues to ultimate players. So, kind of creating that sort of like reciprocity with other people that are doing ultimate related things in Pittsburgh. And, picking PSL as kind of a specific example of that. But also, and I don't have a ton of insight into which local organizations this would be, in this kind of vein of thinking, but and I think a couple of other candidates have mentioned this, of creating engagement with the broader community, not specifically ultimate related. So getting Pittsburgh Ultimate out there as a community that's like doing good things, not just in the realm of ultimate, but in terms of engaging with Pittsburgh and making Pittsburgh a better place, not just making ultimate better in Pittsburgh. And trying to engage with the community in that way to sort of get our name out there as like, we're an organization that's doing good for the community, so the community should want to support us too. So that was my sort of roundabout, non-specific answer to that question.
Janine?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to piggyback on what Steph said. Like, I think getting involved in organizations that aren't ultimate related, we'll meet a lot of different people, and some of them might say, hey, these ultimate players, they're pretty cool, I'm gonna go check that out. It's just like the most basic way to get the word out. So I had a couple ideas, and one kind of stems from the trash pickup day that the ultimate community does. I went to the one in the fall, I guess it was maybe like October, November, in Lawrenceville, and like it was perfect for someone like me. Like, I just moved back after being away for a while. We're doing something great for our community. I personally can't walk by a plastic bottle without picking it up and recycling it. So like, that's certainly like my jam. So there are a lot of ways we can get involved in Pittsburgh. There are some organizations, there's Allegheny Cleanways, there's Friends of the Riverfront, there's River for Life Pittsburgh, and I think 9 Mile Run does a cleanup. So like, there's a field there, we could have some ultimate, and then go clean up the river. I think it would be great. And another like very brief idea I had was finding some way to partner with Vitalant and get Pittsburgh Ultimate to do a blood drive. And yeah, that's it for now.
Great. Kate?
Yeah, I think that it's really important, to me at least, to allow Pittsburgh Ultimate to be part of something bigger than just Ultimate, right? So Ultimate itself is like really great. It's a really great outlet. It's a really awesome, community that we've created. However, I think that there are some really important organizations and collectives in Pittsburgh that we should, be collaborating with in order to expand our demographic and our inclusion, and our community as a whole. So things like the Center for Race and Gender Equity, LGBTQ youth resources like PERSAD and Project Silk, things like that are really important for creating a bigger and broader community, that could possibly provide an outlet for individuals who don't necessarily have that prior. I think that it's extremely important for us to recognize privilege that we have being a part of this community and outreaching to communities or demographics or organizations that don't necessarily have that privilege, as an alternative outlet for things like LGBTQ youth who might not have safe places to go, stuff like that. And I think that that's really important and kind of where I stand on the issue.
Thanks. Maggie?
Yeah, like Kate, I wanted to sort of focus on the outreach part of it for a bit. I know just like, especially with youth outreach, I think is really important, and just like getting like players, like, because so many kids don't know that Ultimate is a sport. I know summer of 2019, we went to like a Girl Scout day camp. Christy was there and a bunch of other like boxy players. And we just taught these girls how to like throw an ultimate and do some drills. And I think doing things like that, but especially partnering with pre-existing organizations that focus on like youth outreach, especially towards like minority communities. I know there's like, I think like Urban League, who does things with the North Side, a bunch of different sports. Open Field is a soccer organization that focuses on Black communities in Pittsburgh, and just like working with pre-existing organizations like that, to just sort of like connect to the youth in them and introduce them to Ultimate at least.
Great. Our next question is, which of the strategic planning committees do you feel most passionate about and why? And just for those of you who aren't as familiar, the 5 strategic planning committees that came out of our most recent strategic plan are youth, gender equity, racial equity, community integration, and dedicated field space. So again, which of these committees do you feel most passionate about and why? This time we are going to start with Janine.
Okay, I think every committee is pretty crucial to Pittsburgh Ultimate as a whole, but I would say that community integration resonated the most with me. Seems like their main focus is creating opportunities for everyone who wants to be involved with Ultimate at whatever capacity they want, giving them the opportunity to do so. And I think back of when like I first started playing and that didn't really exist. So, I mean, I started playing Ultimate in 2004 and it kind of was like being thrown into the deep end, and it's like a lot wasn't explained to me, and a lot of other women in my position just stopped doing it because we didn't have, other activities to explore or other places to play or like foster growth. So like there weren't any other social gatherings and like our ways of playing Ultimate were very limited. So as we've all said, like it sounds like we're all very committed to reaching a larger demographic of the city because, we want our community to grow and be very inclusive. And I think, giving people of different backgrounds and genders and ages, especially a wide variety of activities to play and like be introduced to Ultimate and the people who do it is really, really important to me.
Thank you. Kate?
So I had a difficult time, deciding on what my answer to this question would be, because I think that all of them are super important. And I think that all of them kind of go hand in hand. You can't talk about community integration without talking about racial and gender equity, and you can't talk about the youth without talking about community integration. And I think so they all kind of go together, and they all kind of, become one entity. But I think if I had to choose, it would come down to racial and gender equity. And I think that it's really important to mention both of them in order to keep it as intersectional as possible. It's impossible to talk about gender equity without talking about racial equity, et cetera. And I think within Ultimate, something that has become really apparent both within Pittsburgh Ultimate and Ultimate as a whole in the United States is inequities between gender and race. Ultimate being a largely whitewashed sport is something that is an ongoing conversation, and something that we as board members have a responsibility to be having these hard conversations about. And I think that, like I said earlier with one of the other questions, being mindful of our language and making sure that we are using equitable and inclusive language, both for gender and racial equity, is extremely important. And so I think in terms of strategic planning committees, I feel most passionate about racial and gender equity.
Thanks. Maggie?
Hey, so for this one, all right, I keep forgetting to wait till I'm spotlighted. But I have to go with youth on this one, because that's like the main reason I'm running for this spot, because I've done it all since like 6th grade on through. I was part of like Youth Pittsburgh Ultimate. It's why I play Ultimate, because I got involved as I was an 11-year-old in it. And I think there's a lot of growth to be had, and just like ways we can reshape it, especially just like expanding to other schools. Like just in the past couple of years, it was really cool to see that like Brashear, a majority Black school, now has a team. And just like, it's great to see growth. And just like, I loved my high school team and like all the experience I had in it. But I also like see where things are lacking and where we need support. Because it also was a mess. Like my high school team, we had no idea what we were doing half the time. And so I want to be able to like give more support to teams that way.
Great. Steph?
Okay, so for me, I feel most passionate about community integration. But like Kate and Janine mentioned, I feel the same way that all of these committees kind of feed into each other, and each one affects the other. Like you can't have community integration without racial and gender equity. Like all of these things are very interconnected with each other. But for me, as I mentioned towards the beginning, the community aspect of Pittsburgh Ultimate has always been sort of near and dear to my heart. So, I think with community integration, all of the sort of like outreach to underrepresented communities, and that is all very important, but also organizing more community events where people can come and just like socialize and bring their kids and just have fun, I think is important to do too, just to kind of reinforce that sense of community, and that we're a big Pittsburgh Ultimate family. So yeah,
Great.
community integration.
Our next question is, if Pittsburgh Ultimate had a cash windfall or a sudden influx of cash, what would you want to put that money toward? Conversely, if we had a deficit, what hard decisions would you make to balance the books? Please feel free to address one or both of those questions. Let's have maybe two folks respond to that. Is anyone interested? If not, I will continue to go in order.
I'll give a brief shout out to youth programming because I think like areas like club, which is mostly the population are adults, like don't need as much funding or and I don't know. I think it's mostly well spent on youth programming, especially reaching schools that don't have ultimate programs yet. And that's, I'm sure I could think of more things to say on this topic, but don't have enough time.
Great. Anyone else?
I will second that. I know like the biggest like block between like people, at least at a youth level, playing ultimate is just like the money. Cause like if somebody's parent doesn't want to pay like the USAU like thing, like our team had money to cover like the pool fees and whatever, but like at some point it's like we didn't have the funds to like spread it out to everyone. And so when we tell them, yeah, you're gonna have to like pay for these things, they say, oh, like never mind then. Especially because a lot of times they'll be like at a level where they don't like need the support exactly, but it's still like, oh, if I have to pay, like I'd rather not. And it's still just like a challenge.
Great, thanks.
I will third that actually. Like youth programming, especially if we're talking about reaching out to these sort of underserved, underrepresented communities, that extra bit of funding might be that lack of funding might be what's stopping them from even starting a program in the first place. So if we're able to offer, if you start a team, we can help you fund it, we can help players pay dues and pay for tournament fees and that sort of thing, that might be that sort of like jumpstart that they need to get the program off the ground. So
thank you. Our next question is, why should Ultimate spread to other communities that are not currently playing? Why is that important?
I'll speak on. Yeah, I'll speak on this one. So I think it's really important to recognize why certain communities aren't playing Ultimate. And I think that, we have a largely underserved and underrepresented community within people of color playing Ultimate. And I think that is, a larger conversation than just, within this meeting that we're having right now. But it's important to look at, why these communities aren't playing Ultimate, why these communities are underrepresented, and what we can do as a pre-existing community to make things more equitable. So I think Ultimate should spread to other communities that are not currently playing in order to get a more broader representation of athletes and, people involved in the community. And we can't, answer that question without, questioning why and what are we doing to create this inclusive and well-represented space for people of all walks of life.
Great. Is anyone else interested?
Yeah, I think. Why should we? Because it'll help us, one, to have numbers, to just have like more athletes, because like there are so many skilled people out there who just like don't play. But part of it is it's not just about diversity, but the inclusion is important, because I have so many friends who are either have stopped or are stopping playing Ultimate because they just like the community just isn't it for them. It's not what they thought it would be. And they just like don't feel that like connection and love from it. So they stop playing. So yeah, like what Kate was addressing is that we have to give to them what we want, like it has to be mutually beneficial. If that makes sense.
Great. And to add as a clarifier, what does the Ultimate community bring to those new communities too, if anyone wants to respond to that.
Yeah, I guess Ultimate's just so unique and different in pretty much every way from any other sport, but also anyone who has played a different sport tends to pick up Ultimate like pretty quickly. So I think it's actually it's more accessible than people think. I think the community, like, you know, people become really fast friends, and it can feel a little exclusive and a little scary, just like based on people's personality types. So reaching other communities is crucial because I think like Ultimate is more fun and, like I said, accessible than people realize. Like we have all these weird, like, you know, we have like jargon and terminology that nobody understands and it might scare people away, but reaching out to, you know, places that don't really know about it, like I think people just kind of don't know what they're missing, but it's also up to us to like be more inclusive.
Steph, anything to add?
Just kind of echoing what everyone has said. Yeah, I think, you know, in terms of why should we be reaching out to other communities, because it'll help us, you know, essentially recruit more players to Ultimate. If, you know, we're putting ourselves out there, you know, we're, you know, sort of becoming familiar faces in these other communities. I think it's a great recruitment tool in terms of what we at Pittsburgh Ultimate can bring to these other communities. I think, you know, just echoing what Janine said about, you know, Ultimate is pretty unique and it's also super accessible. And in terms of organized sports, it's one of the more affordable ones out there. So I think that's something that we can offer is, you know, you don't have to buy a ton of special equipment to go play pickup. You know, just you can play in tennis shoes. You can play in your bare feet. You don't even need shoes. You don't even need a disc because somebody will have like 30 of them in the trunk of their car. Like, so yeah, it's super accessible and unique. And, you know, as we're working on being more inclusive, I think we can be more welcoming to people. You know, that's seems like a general theme that all of us are pretty committed to making Pittsburgh Ultimate more welcoming and more diverse. So yeah.
Great. Our next question is, what are your thoughts on the current relationship with the semi-pro team in Pittsburgh? And how could it potentially be beneficial or disadvantageous to Pittsburgh Ultimate? Any takers?
I think that like on a larger scale, a semi-pro team in any city is like gonna, you know, represent what the city's ultimate scene looks like, right? So you have a semi-pro team in Pittsburgh, and what does that look like? What are the demographics of that team? What is the equity within that team, and how is that represented within the community as it trickles down? And I think that like all of these questions and all of these, you know, conversations and comments and stuff like that are extremely important, but what it comes down to is, what does our demographic look like, and how is that representative of the city of Pittsburgh and of the amount of people that want to play Ultimate? And so I think that doing what we can to work with the semi-pro team, make them and their demographic and their representation a bit more equitable and a bit more inclusive would be extremely advantageous for, you know, college level Ultimate, high school level Ultimate, pickup, summer league, stuff like that, making it a more welcoming and more well-represented place, which, you know, it's not, we're not making any, you know, strides towards that. So I think that that's like a really important aspect of having a larger and more professional like team in the city.
Thanks. Anyone else? No?
Just gonna second what Kate said. Yeah, I think working with the semi-pro team in Pittsburgh to make things make sure that they're representing the community equitably, because they are essentially what the larger public sees as a reflection of the ultimate community in Pittsburgh. So I think it's important that accurately reflect the community that they're representing.
Thanks.
I'd like to, sorry, just short thought on this, and that's just like providing opportunities for people to get to the semi-pro games. All I can think of was that like in New York City, like most people didn't really go to Empire games because they were like impossible to get to. So if a lot of like, especially younger players, like want to see what Ultimate is all about and go watch these games, but they have no way to get there, maybe like we could be doing more to provide that service. That's all.
Thank you. Our next question is, if you don't get elected this time, how do you plan to continue to be involved with the organization, if at all? Let's just go in order this time. Let's start with Maggie.
There we go. Yeah, so actually this has been really cool, just funny in itself, because I've actually taken the time to like read through like the bylaws and just like go through everything. But yeah, so obviously still like playing Ultimate, going to events and whatnot. But also like there's still yeah, sort of and just like one thing I noticed that like a lot of the board meetings either are like open or they're town halls where there's still like opportunities to like have input, which this made me realize I do have a lot to like share with the community, and just like visions for it. So there's still lots of ways to just like get that out without being on the board. I would obviously like a more direct role, but there are still ways to contribute without being on it.
Thank you. Steph?
Yeah, so obviously if I'm not elected to the board, I'm just gonna quit Ultimate forever and leave Pittsburgh. No, obviously I will continue to play Ultimate. I will continue to be a part of the community. And I think especially volunteering my time to help with the community integration committee is something that I would like to do regardless of my status on the board or not. So yeah.
Thanks. Janine?
Yeah, I mean, if not elected, I would change almost nothing. I think like everyone else, like I'm dying to play again and socialize again, and that I'm like new-ish in town. I'm really just so eager to meet everyone in this community. Yeah, I have old friends here, but so much has changed in 10 years of being away, and like I can't wait to meet everyone. I want to play all the pickup and all the leagues, and like being directly involved in it and participating a lot is also like, examining it and seeing what we could do better with these playing opportunities. And like Steph, I would also like to be involved with community integration.
Great. Kate?
So I think that like if I weren't to be elected onto the board, I would still want to be involved in committees, specifically the Racial and Gender Equity Committee. I think that there's a lot of work to be done within the Ultimate community and in the Pittsburgh Ultimate community in terms of gender equity and racial equity, and creating a space that is representative of our city and of the demographic of people that want to play Ultimate. We talk a lot about how Ultimate is an accessible sport. It's an easy sport to play. You can just pick it up and whatever. And that's all, very true and well and good for specifically white individuals and cis individuals. And I think that creating a space or working to create a space that is more equitable and indicative of community and of equity, regardless of whether or not I'm on the board, is something that's really important to me. Yeah.
Great. I think that is a great way to end our session tonight. We will be hosting the election through March 11th. So you can go to our website and view all of the candidate statements from all 4 of these candidates, as well as vote on the same page. On the same page, you will also be asked to read some changes to our current bylaws and vote yes or no to approve those bylaw changes. Please vote for up to 2 of the 4 candidates, as well as the bylaw changes. Again, you can change those votes at any point throughout the week until 11:59 at the end of March 11th. So thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much to our panelists for spending the time to get their heads wrapped around all of these big questions and for running it to be a major part of Pittsburgh Ultimate. We will see you all soon.
Bye, everyone.